Hi everyone, I am Tara, aka Spirit Mother, and I would like to welcome you all back to my channel on YouTube. Spirit Teaching Going with Myself, on TikTok 1974, and I'm also live on my Facebook. If you're new to my channel, I always recommend you to read the description on my YouTube channel to Spirit Teaching Going with Myself to get a better understanding of what it is that I can bring forward. I'll make you laugh, I'll make you cry, I'll push you off, you'll probably never on your head. But hey, keep your hands to yourself, and by all means, bring it energetically. And if you love me, you like me, love me. And either way, that's okay, because I bring forward a lot of stuff, and it does piss people off. It does irritate people, and I fully understand that. It's the part of being able to look at things from a different perspective. Today I'm talking about parenting, and someone said, well, what gives you the authority to speak on parenting? Okay, I don't have to have authority to speak on parenting. You don't have to be a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anyone to be able to speak on parenting. It's sharing your parenting experiences, what you've gone through as a parent, what you've learned, ways of helping with parenting, and what have you. Okay, you say the government's already telling us how to parent our children. No, they're telling you how to control. But see, the thing is, you're the one giving up the control to them. Okay, so they can't. It's standing together. Okay, now I can speak up. Like, I didn't grow up in a household where my mother and father were not married. Okay? My mother and father were married, but that doesn't mean that there isn't complications in a relationship, even if the parents are married, right? Because some parents stay together for the sake of the kids, which I will tell you, not a good idea. Okay, not staying together just for the sake of the kids. Okay, because kids see it, kids experience, like they're very observant. Okay, I'm not like work your relationships out, but as like when relationships split apart and one parent's living here and the other parent's living there, or either parent or both parents end up with another significant other or remarry. Okay, in many cases it takes a toll on the children. Some children, they resent their siblings because they want to be the only child. Okay, now yesterday I was talking and I was making reference to an experience. Oh, beautiful. I don't know what that is. It's like multi-brown. Hold on. Let's see if I can. Oh, shit. One sec. Okay. Can anybody else see that out there? Okay. Now, what is, I was talking with someone and I was talking with the tone, and I was using it as a reference because, things happen when families and parents separate. Okay. Not only, like, usually they don't get along with each other. I know uh, when I got into the relationship with my ex-husband, that was blocking. You struggle to have someone else tell your children what to do. Okay, And sometimes the other parent will feel like that person is coming in and trying to take your place. Okay. I was in that experience. My ex-husband, he felt that, that I wouldn't let him do anything, which I would, but I know, like, there's being too strict. Okay. My ex-husband wasn't real fond of my youngest son's father. Okay? He and we had our problems, but see, there were problems between myself and my ex-husband, who would have been my boyfriend and husband at the time, but then his wife and new wife. Okay, there was like kind of just like tension there. Okay, and that's why I say the kids can feel it, and I know that when I got with my ex-husband, I know that his wife, his first wife, didn't like me. And probably to this day, she still doesn't, because, you think that somebody is trying to interfere. But they're not always interfering. They're trying to help a situation. They're not trying to become the parent. They want to co-parent. But when, there's the part there where, okay, I was explaining to someone, and my young son, he got a little irritated with me. He wasn't catching what I was trying to convey and what I was trying to get, right? Because when my youngest son was younger, okay, and I'm over that. I'm using it as a reference, and people say, "Well, you're not over it," and like you don't let it go. I've let it go. My son is like over 30 now, and this was back when he was 14. The relationship between him and his father is between him and his father, and I left it that way. Now, when he was younger, my youngest son comes to me and he told me what his something his father had told him, and it was that if he had a relationship with me, as long as he was having a relationship with me, his father wanted nothing to do with him. Okay. Now I was making reference to this yesterday, and my youngest son, he was getting irritated with me for like kids don't need to know that. No, it wasn't to say kids don't need to know that. It was to convey a message that this stuff happens in parent-child relationships, in parent-to-parent relationships. Okay. And I was like trying to find out, like, because there's a lot of stuff going on with this younger boy, because, like, okay, the way he reacts in certain situations, okay, especially when it comes to food. Okay, kids don't want to eat, but he wanted to be an only child, and he figures that the parent should make different meals for each, or make the meals that he likes, and to help with the other kids. And I was explaining things to him. Okay, you can't expect your mom to do that. And I explained to him, like, hey, your mom has 3 other kids other than just you. Now, when I was saying that with regards to my son's father, it wasn't to ridicule my son's father or my son or anything like that. It was using as a reference point of, you know, is this why, like, maybe you're feeling, because there's a thing where you feel if you have something to do with your mom, your dad won't want anything to do with you, or vice versa. Because the way he was reacting yesterday with regards to the food, he's holding a lot in, and he will give me looks, and I can tell when somebody's trying to get in my head. Okay, but I explained to him, like, I understand you have, like, gifts to be able to do that, but not everybody can do that. Okay. And he has to bring it forward. Okay. Because people will think, oh, you're coming on here and you're telling people's life and everything like that. If you don't get what I'm doing or understand what it is that why I'm bringing this stuff forward, it's because it's learning. It's not to shame anybody. So if you take it as a shame, or for me to make you, that I'm trying to make you look bad in light of other people, well, that's where you're sadly mistaken. Now, I know where, if there's her not wanting him to like be more of a parent with the children, I understand that because I was there myself. Sinon, non, je le haine pour qui a cette petite récito. And I can feel somebody's aggravated with me, and that's just fine. Then I guess you're not understanding what it is. It's like I said, it's not to shame you, and I'm not saying that anybody's a bad parent. I'm saying these are things that happen in relationships. Some relationships, everybody gets along. But it's, sitting back and finding out, okay, what transpired. Okay, because let's make my ex-husband's relationship with his first wife was much like the relationship that I had with my son's father. Okay, it was rocky. Even when we separated, it was like, it was rocky. But see, when you're this many years later, if you're still holding that grudge or you're still holding that animosity towards the other person, and those kids are fucking grown up, it's time that the adults grow up. Recito arăchimătă emehăsui. See, kids will play and manipulate one parent against the other because maybe one's more lenient and the other one's more strict, or one, all you got to do is just put on a big face and cry and you'll get your own way. Okay. So if you're in a relationship like that and the parent and the biological parent does that, yes, you will begin to get irritated with it because you're seeing like, wait, like, because it's when a child will only eat junk food, crap food, instant food, put it in the microwave. Okay. Many parents today don't have time. So it's that instant food they go to. It's cheaper. It's quick to just get ready. But I explained to my grandson. Okay, he's not my son's biological, but he's my grandson. And I explained to him the reason for his behavior, the reason why he feels a lot of the time the way he does. It has a lot to do with the food he's ingesting. You ingest a lot of sugary foods, you're going to be angry, you're going to be bouncing, you're going to be aggressive. And I even explained to him, like, because of the behavior, if you hurt any of the other children, you will get in trouble for it. So I explained, I used in reference to some people get mad because you'll think of preaching the Bible to a child. No, no, I don't believe in preaching a Bible. I used the story of Cain and Abel as a reference point. Okay. And when I use the story of Cain and Abel as a reference point, I had brought the real story forward, okay? Because people say that, Cain killed Abel, but did you know why Cain killed Abel or why Cain threw the rock at Abel? You say that it was because the father chose one or the other. Well, to a child, they will feel that maybe if one's getting more attention, that one's chosen of the other. But it didn't have to do with them. Abel was the oldest. Okay. And Cain was protecting the other children. Cain stood up to Abel the bully. But she'll say that's not true at all. You're fucking right, it is. Now I want you to take, because this. I mean, making reference. My channel will go anywheres and everywheres that it wants to, because I don't work for the Matrix. I don't work for you. I bring things forward for spirit, things that I need to hear, things that you need to hear, or Nancy and Jack down the road, or up at Susie's place up in Timbuktu, or what have you. Okay? So you take a look at the story of Cain and Abel. You say Cain killed Abel with the rock, right? Now you go to the story of David and Goliath. David killed Goliath with the rock, right? It's the same fucking story. Cain was protecting the other children, like David was protecting the other children from Goliath. So David is the representation of Cain. But you won't take that as being feasible, right? That's not plausible. But look at the story. Abel was jealous of the other children. So is Abel, like you say, Cain, you say Abel was the son of Adam and Eve, okay? But you say that God made himself man. So is it possible that Abel was that version of Adam, as to what you're saying Jesus is the version to his father? Okay. Now, okay. Look at Gaia and Uranus. Okay. Gaia and Uranus, they were perfect together. Uranus was the son of Gaia. Gaia had children. So Uranus was no longer an only child. So what did Uranus do? He didn't want his children being born. He didn't want other siblings. Okay. So what did he do? He kept trying to keep the children within God, right? And then the one where Kronos had to, he used the slides, what have you, say, to cut the testicles off Uranus. Okay, that's so. And then the same thing. Cronus didn't want somebody challenging his attention with Rhea. So what did Cronus do? Cronus did the same thing as his father. And, this is the part of the parenting, going back to the beginning where the mother had the child and had more children, but the first child wanted to be an only child because it would be getting all the attention. It would be getting everything that you figured that would be going to the other children. And my son yesterday, he explained it quite well, He explained it in a way that, like, think of it this way: if you were only only a child, you wouldn't you wouldn't have all that other stuff to play with because you're siblings. But an only child, they figure, I'll get everything, and I'll even get the more expensive things and what have you. But with my grandson, I know there's more to it, and it's like he needs it's having that person that you're able to go talk to, where it's not a parent, it's not a co-parent, it's not a step parent. Because many children, with regards to stuff like that, when it comes to the parenting, and it's a separation, and then there's another person that comes into the picture, and then the children are like, well, then there's no hope of my parents getting back together, so you want to drive that other person away because you carry the hope that your parents will get back together, because no child really wants their parents separated, do they? So okay, Uranus wanted the attention of Gaia, so he didn't want any other kids involved, didn't want any other siblings. Kronos did the same thing to his kids because he didn't want somebody else having the attention that he wanted. It's like attention, when they're attention seeking. Okay. And when a child doesn't know how to explain something, their behavior will be out of place. Like, he was really crying about food because he said he didn't like it. And it was like, I'm told that anything basically that you put in front of him, he doesn't like it unless it's something that you can just throw quick in the microwave. But see, I'm going to say that that lies more on the parent than it does the child. So his behavior was really out of place. Like, he was like tears and all. And I know some kids can make themselves cry. But where I can feel energy and I can feel you internally, I kept saying there's more to it than what you're telling us. This behavior is not about food and not liking the food that's put before you, because my son told him, you eat this meal, like eat this lunch, and then later, like after or like for supper in the evening or what have you, we'll get a pizza. But next time, not say that you're going to get something else. Because the only thing they heard was pizza, and then they're going to do anything and everything they can to avoid. And then the adult, the parent, is the one that ends up aggravated, right? Like yesterday, I could see my son's aggravation and irritation, but he was very calm about it. See, that's the part where, he feels like, they do need more, they need healthy food instead of being able to go and just throw something in a microwave. The shit that's in that food, and people wonder why their kids are so aggressive and angry, especially then when you try to give them healthy food. Healthy food to them don't taste good. Someone said, "Well, you gave your kid junk food." Very seldomly did I give my kids junk food or anybody else's kids junk food. Whenever I had the kids over, it was usually, here's a bunch of salad. Let's eat salad and even spaghetti sometimes. I like spaghetti sometimes, but it was mainly good food. And I mean, they would have like 2, 3 platefuls of salad. It was like, wait till they have their fill and then go get mine. But that's the thing. So now when you look at the sibling rivalry, okay, because I'm gonna like growing up, okay, my mom and dad, they both worked. So my eldest sister, she had to grow up fast because she had to take care of us while my parents were at work. And I mean, sometimes it was at nighttime. And this may piss them off. But if you get pissed off for this, then I guess you're not hearing what I'm saying. So didn't have that childhood, had to grow up, be that adult. Because parents always felt, in order to be able to like get things for your children, you had to have a job, you had to have work because one job would not take care of a whole family. And don't you find that a little fucking strange? And then we wonder why things happen in the world. I was a Gen X, I was born in the mid 70s. So I grew up, my parents were at work, and wasn't that I was rebellious or anything like that, but some would say, well, you were a bad kid. Was I really a bad kid? But see, when the parent, that's why, okay, you have all this pedophilia happening right now. Okay? I'm getting on that, okay? And the reason why is because the attention's not there. You're like, it's like, okay, Gen X, or some Gen X are, oh, you're all proud because, we were out and we were beating the shit out of each other and became friends and what have you. Okay? We were all playing in the road and didn't have to eat our dark. We were cooking our own food and everything like that. Yes, I do believe that parents should be teaching their kids from a young age how to prepare their own food and help. When they're offering to help and you tell them to get out of the kitchen, you are the problem, not the child. And I will say, you are the problem, not the child, because the child is wanting to learn how to cook, but you're telling them get out instead of actually, you know, allowing them to help to make the workload easier on you, or do you just want to play victim and say, I'm always doing stuff for my kids? Well, because you don't teach them how to fucking do anything, right? That's why. Like, you can get irritated. I'm not telling you how to bring your children up. I'm explaining from experience of what, like, when you're a broken family, what you experience when you're a single parent, what you experience. Even In co-parenting, co-parent, you experience it. In a family, like when the parents are together, you experience it. So if you're complaining and saying that you can't get anything done, that you have no help, but your child is wanting to help. Like I know my son said that, it's hard to get the youngest to get this one to clean up the room. Clean up the room. They should be picking up after themselves. Teach them at a young age. People say, "Oh, you can't do that." Why don't you? Do you like picking up after them and then complaining about it, saying, "Oh, well, we're always making a mess"? Well, don't leave it for somebody else to pick up. It's like if you go to somebody else's house and your kid makes a mess, pick up the mess before you go. Don't leave it for the homeowner to clean up the mess. It wasn't their kids who made the mess. Your kid made the mess. Clean it up. Or actually, teach your kid to clean it up. That's why you have kids the way they are today. I watch a video of a woman and her kid. Oh my Jesus, man. Holy crap. Some people say, "Oh, don't holler at your kids." It's not about hollering at them. It's about using that stern voice that makes them, that shocks them. I told my grandkids, like, people may think I'm mean. I don't. I don't do the 1, 2, 3 because you hear me the first time. And sometimes doing that 1, 2, 3, you're just enabling them because what they'll do is they'll fucking push it right to the limit. Because then they'll call your bluff. Can't blame them. Like I've seen like kids lie, but like, kids know when they're gonna get in trouble, but hey, a lot of kids lie because the adults teach them to lie. But as adults, we won't take accountability for that. We'll just say, "Oh, your kids lie." They only lie because they see the adults lying, and the adults get away with lying. Piss off. And they say the first, like for Cain and Abel, they say the first murder in human history. Story of Cain and Abel found in the book of Genesis illustrates themes of jealousy, sin, and divine justice. That's what they want you to believe. Because it has one child jealous over the other. And right now with what I'm seeing, it is that part of the jealousy. But it was a self-defense in the way that Cain was protecting the siblings. from the bully. Who was the jealous one? Cain, the jealous one. Abel was the jealous one. But because your story tells you otherwise, and you're saying, oh, you're protecting a demon. You're protecting a murderer. Am I actually looking at it from a different perspective, considering you're saying about Cain killing Abel with a rock, but you say that was murder, but then you say that David and Goliath, the same story, that David was protecting the people from Goliath. So it was okay. But Cain and Abel's story was the exact same, and you say it was murder. How exactly does that work? So you'll say about Cain and Abel being the first blood draw or what have you, but it was actually, the story of Gaia and Uranus. But hey, you say Kronos was the youngest sibling. But what did Uranus do to Cronus? See, this is going to sound fucked up, but when you connect with the spirit aspect of things, you start seeing things differently. You start seeing the similarities of the stories. Same story, different names. It's like you look at your acting. They all got different names, right? You give them different names for each fucking character. Same story, you demonize them in one, but then you glorify someone else in another. And then you don't put the two stories together and realize you're talking about the same fucking story. Mark and Tricia, okay, overview of the story. Cain and Abel were the first two sons of Adam and Eve. Actually, Eve was a sister to Cain and Abel. Lilith was the daughter of Sophia and Adam. Lilith and Adam. They had Eve. Cain and Abel were the siblings to Lilith, who's Sophia and Adam. I feel that. So we try. It's like we try. It's like spirit trying to comprehend that, but in like, just wait a minute. Cain was the son of Lilith and Lucifer, which Lilith separated from herself and created Lucifer, of the version of him. They had Cain. Lilith and Adam had Abel and Eve, Anna, Seth. But Eve was the daughter. Because Cain and Abel had different fathers. But Abel, Seth, and Anna, which, was Anna Eve and they gave her a different name? You can't say that Adam had sex with his daughter. But that's blasphemy, right? Why? Because your Bible tells you something different? Or you'll say that, science. Well, I could tell you a little bit about the moon with your science and the flat earth, round earth theory too. And I will get to that. But will that be in this life? Probably not. But it'll be in another one. Cain, the elder brother, which Cain wasn't the elder brother. Cain was actually the youngest. Was a farmer who tilled the ground, while Abel was a shepherd who cared for the sheep. How many of you have heard of The Boy Who Cried Wolf? Okay, because, with my, with kids, what do they do? For attention, they will cry wolf. And then when something actually happens, what happens? Nobody believes it. He was the one, he was the shepherd. Okay, what did you said David was the shepherd. So you took and you put Abel as being much David in David and Goliath. But then you put Cain as being Goliath, when Cain was actually David and Abel was Goliath. Both brothers made offerings to God. Cain offered some shit. Cain offered the fruits of the soil, while Abel brought the best portion of the firstborn of his flock. So what was that? So Abel brought the first human sacrifice to the Father, the first sacrifice to the Father. Oh, damn it. Let's see. Do you get that? That was the first sacrifice. But see, I believe that Cain and Eve had a child together. You call him Jesus today. But was he actually Jezebel? But, oh, that's blasphemy, right? This is what it is. I'm talking about parenting. I'm talking about parenting, family. Maybe I'm not making the reference that you would prefer I made. Because you'll say I was talking about biblical text, when actually I'm just using it as a story reference. That's the most popular one. Even if you don't believe in God or Jesus or anything like that, it's still a popular story, right? You You're said to have beaten the shit out of Jesus and then threw him up on a cross and fucking crucified him and then stabbed him in the fucking side, which was actually Mary Magdalene. They did that. Mother Mary actually gave birth to Mary Magdalene. Mother Mary was actually Jesus's grandmother. Mother Mary was a Sophia. Mary Magdalene was Lilith. Sí, eso no es letras. So the first sacrifice to God, to the Father, which, was a child, was Jessica. They had a good heyday, Abel, and you know that was the first sacrifice. So you say Jesus was the sacrifice, right? The sacrificial lamb. That's why Cain stoned Abel. But see, the thing is, you will say in your biblical text that you stoned you stoned Mary Magdalene because you say she was a Charlotte, right? She was the prostitute. She was the whore. So, you demonized Lilith, you demonized Lucifer. And why would they demonize them? Because they killed the child of Lilith, Lucifer. They killed the Jezebel. They killed the Jesus. But the Jezebel hadn't been born yet. Mary Magdalene was the one, and they stabbed her in the side, right around here, because the baby was inside of her. You had to kill the baby. They were after Mary Magdalene. But the baby inside of Mary Magdalene, because it was said to be the blasphemy. It was said to be the problem. You go back in your other text, you say about the fallen, okay? God kicked the mother out. Well, you say God kicked Lucifer out, which God, it was actually Lilith, and Lilith separated from herself. Adam went like it's like Christ. You don't have to talk about this, but hey, it is Sunday, right? Everybody, the people that go to church. I don't go to church. I go to church, but it's not the church that you're looking for. You're looking for the church where it's going to tell you that you're nothing but a piece of shit sinner. When in actuality, the ones running the systems are the actual sinners because they're the systems integrated into society, and you live under sin, which you live under the systems. Are you awake yet? Firstborn of his flock. Ah, Annabelle. Okay, and Jezebel was Abel's and Anna's. And he sacrificed his own child. But he actually did both. Because there was a girl in the red dress and there was a girl in the blue dress. You know, people will say about the Jezebel spirit, and then they'll say about the Annabelle ball, right? They were first cousins. But you'll only go back to the Jezebel where, you know, maybe they were half sisters. Maybe Abel had sex with Eve. God favored Abel's offering, but did not look favorably upon Cain's, which led to Cain feeling angry and dejected, which such should be rejected. Now, the act of murder and jealousy, Cain lured Abel into the fields and killed him. Really? Cain didn't lure Abel anywhere. Cain came across Abel sacrificing. Was Abram that version of Abel? And then, as time goes by, you change your decisions because wasn't Abram actually going to sacrifice his child? Committing the first murder, when God confronted Cain about Abel's whereabouts, Cain responded with the infamous question, am I my brother's keeper? Cain got scared and ran away from Cain. This act of defiance and denial of responsibility further emphasized Cain's moral failure. He was a kid. He was only about, what, 15? You know, I'm not saying believe me on this, but I'm saying sit with your stories before you fucking come preach to me. Divine punishment and protection. As punishment for his actions, God cursed Cain, making him a restless wanderer on earth. Well, who was the wanderer? Who do you claim in your Christianity as being a traveler? St. Christopher, right? You wear the St. Christopher, right? So God would always be able to find. So the mother would be able to find. Did the mother tell him to run? Because she's seen what happened? Or did both Cain and the other half, like the half sister, run and they went in separate directions because one was a witness? And you always have to protect the witness, right? Wander on earth. St. Christopher was the traveler. That's a traveler is a wanderer. However, God also placed a mark on Cain to protect him from being killed by others, ensuring that he would not face death at the hands of those who might seek revenge. Did you catch that? Or did that go straight by you? You say they were the only fucking humans who would seek revenge, right? But see, that's the thing where you're not like people say you're laughing at it. No, I'm laughing at the irony of all this shit that's going on. You know, if Cain just murdered someone, why would God want to protect Cain from murdering someone? Unless, had to find out how to bring it forward to prove that it was actually a self-defense. Do I agree with murder? No, at all. But I believe there is truth to justice. Is murdering justice? No. Is killing someone justice? How exactly is that justice? You're putting them out of their own misery so that they don't have to wear the guilt, but you wear the pain the rest of your life. Cain then settled in the land of Nod. Where's the lymph node? where are the nodes in your body? The lymph node, okay? The lupus sensation, irritation from conditions, okay? You know, your gut. Your gut feeling. What happens when you have a gut feeling, right? It comes up. Who is the indicator of something bad about to happen? Who would be more aware? King, right? GERD, it comes up. The acid comes up. It's like your gut is trying to push the truth up. Post-nasal drip. Anxiety or stress causes, and thyroid disease. Okay, so truth buried will push up into here, and then it stress builds, get gut feeling, then it becomes acid like what you say it's from your food. Well, you know somewhat. Now let's go back. Divine punishment and protection. Ruthless wanderer, okay, killed by others, faced death at the hands of, okay, revenge. Cain then settled in land of Nod, east of Eden, where he built a city and started a family. So who would want to, okay, in your books you say about like Jesus, okay? He said he came to divide. He goes to homes. So is Jesus that form of Abel, but learned over different frames of time? But he went and he separated and had people follow him. So people left behind their wives, their husbands, and their children to go find, to go follow someone. Said, you know, you don't believe about the book of Thomas. He said he will divide, put mother on father and children on each other and brothers and sisters against one another. Like what's happening right now? But you say that's because you know if you believe in Jesus, that's what's happening. But no, he lured people away from family. I'm not saying he didn't teach the stuff that they're saying, but it actually came from Mary Magdalene. Those were the teachings of Mary Magdalene. And she taught Jesus because Jesus was her son. People will say that Jesus is Lucifer. Jesus is not Lucifer. Because Lucifer was another version of Lilith. And that was Mary Magdalene. That's why they demonized her. Jesus was Michael. You call him Archangel Michael. Satan, Santa, Saint Michael, Saint Peter, Saint Paul, Saint James. Saints are Satan. Because the true is not to have you follow someone else or look to someone else to protect you or die for you. Because a true leader, a true teacher will teach you how to empower yourself. Not have followers. Not say, pray to me, or say in Jesus' name. People will preach and say, hey, pray to God or ask for this from God or what have you. But then at the same time, you'll say, hey, ask Archangel Michael for protection. Do you know that the demons actually fear Mary Magdalene more than they fear Jesus? Because, they were able to manipulate Jesus in many ways. It was Mary Magdalene they couldn't manipulate. Mary Magdalene was trying to tell Jesus. But you won't believe it later because it's a woman, right? Am I blaspheming Jesus? No. You say Jesus sat for 20 days or for 40 days and 40 nights. He had to go through the same fucking dark night of the soul and shadow work as everybody else has to. But I'm going to say it, like, if you look to a God that tells you that you have to ask for their help, and they're not teaching you how to help yourself, they're asking you to be dependent on them. Don't you find something fucking wrong with that? Okay, so through a rock. says God's warning before the murder. God warned Cain about his anger starting, stating, "If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires you, but you must master it." This indicates that Cain had a choice to overcome his negative emotions, but failed to do so. Okay, I'm going to use one of my life experiences. Okay, when I was raped at 9, and a year later, when my dad found out, heard about what happened, my dad went hunting, went looking for him, and my grandfather heard all the commotion over the road, and he came over to see what was going on. And from what I understood, my dad was going to choke him. And my grandfather stopped him from doing so. Charge him. He got 2 years probation, had to see a psychiatrist. 7 years later, he got caught in the midst of getting ready to do it to another 7-year-old. The same guy that did it to me was going to do it to another girl, another family member. I believe that the system failed on that, but hey, they'll go around like they did with Mary Magdalene. They called her a prostitute and everything like that. Okay? Well, there goes ducks. Now, I believe that that person should have went to jail. Because going to the psychiatrist didn't do anything, did it? And God knows if they did anything after that 7-year-old too. Who else did they do something to? That's the thing. What is the appropriate punishment? So God allowed Abel to get away with what he did because it was sacrifice. It was a sacrifice to God. Here, God, here is the flesh sacrifice. Where do you think that came from? The sacrifice of the man. So the first sacrifice of the firstborn. So Jesus was the firstborn of Mary Magdalene. But Mary Magdalene was pregnant when they crucified her. And they tried to kill the baby. But the baby within Mary Magdalene was God. It was the baby who healed Mary Magdalene. You know, if you watch the series Charmed, okay, people say, "Oh, you and your fucking Charmed." Yeah, me and my fucking Charmed, because I can see how it relates. Because Piper was a witch, Leo was a white lighter and an elder. So Wyatt was that representation of the baby that they tried to kill within Mary Magdalene's womb. Somebody told me they had a dream once. It was a dream about me and my two oldest sons, or my oldest son, who my parents adopted, and my youngest son. She said in that dream she came in my house. She was in the house, and when I walked in the house, she said everything started floating in the air. And she said that me and my two oldest sons were there, and my two sons were there, and then all of a sudden, all three of us disappeared. And then I showed back up at the other end of the house, and then all of a sudden I was right in the face. What it does is your dreams are showing you the different versions of your spirit, the different encounters that you had with different versions of spirit. That, you know, you see those people in an image that you recognize. Because, like I said, and I told other people, when I look at people, it's not like I see your face, but I go past your face and my spirit sees your spirit. I speak with your spirit. That's why, you don't understand me in the languages, but your spirit does. That's why, you'll feel calm about it or you'll get really fucking agitated. Some stories say didn't even give a weapon. So did he actually throw a rock, or did he go into seeing what was happening and just literally beat the shit out of him? Because he was hurting his sister. You think of it this way, in those times, like you look, in those times, like even in our past times, recent times, in the past 100 years, kids were 12 years old having children. It's never changed, doesn't it? Is it right? No, it's not. Because it's a child having a child. Okay. So it doesn't say that. Like I'm looking at it right here because I asked, where in the Bible does it say Cain killed Abel with a rock? That's your stories. That's the same as David and Goliath killed him, with a slingshot and a rock, a pebble. Because Goliath, you said Goliath was a giant, okay? Goliath was a giant, but Goliath was a cyclops. Was Abel the snake? The three-eyed snake? There was, they had the two families, right? You look at Gaia and Uranus. They had the Titans and they had the Olympians. Correct? The Olympians was, oh, look at me, glorify me, I'm so gorgeous. Like, well, I think the actors better stop going to whoever it is that they're getting their cosmetic surgery from because it's making them look like a bunch of clowns, which the clown I'm talking about is the one that you show on the movie The Saw. You say Lucifer was beautiful. When have you actually heard people really refer to men as being beautiful? But Lucifer's name is not in the Bible. But Lilith is. Isaiah 34:14, where she appears as a nocturnal creature or screech owl. I've never heard of a banshee being referred to as a screech owl, but anybody familiar with what a banshee is? A banshee is one that, it has so much pain that it goes back to the people that created it and caused it for them. What's this? Yeah, what the heck? It's all about family. I'm just using a different version of it, right? Because one side of the family is, I'm beautiful, I'm gorgeous, I'm like, oh, I'm all that, right? And then you have the other side of the family that, because they look different, you call them the mutants, right? They're the experiments gone bad. They were the ones that they used to manipulate DNA with, right? Like I look and I see children that and people like, and their bodies are deformed and mutated. it all starts with womb, right? So whatever is injected into the mother, it goes directly into the bloodstream of the baby, and that's how they form. But everyone says, "Oh, that's genetic." It's genetic, but it's DNA manipulation. But what do I know, right? I just know common sense. But you all live by these things that you get stuck in your body, forgetting that hey, when you're born, why do you think when you're born you come out full of fucking shit and piss all over you? It's up your nose and everything because that is the place where you build your immune system. And then, what is it, 6 weeks or something like that? But whatever you build up inside, it comes from the mother. So if the mother is not well, or there's something going on with the mother, so the mother's immune system is built up by all this junk that's being put in the bloodstream. That's the mutation. That's why children are coming out the way they're coming out. But they'll say, "Oh, no, that's not true at all. Like, you got to refrain from doing that. You can't do that no more. Cease and desist." What am I ceasing and desisting? They're putting fetuses in your vaccines, and they are. But will you believe me? No. Like, you'll just say I'm lying, like that's bullshit and everything like that, instead of actually going and looking up, right? You'll expect somebody else to do it for you, but hey, before you throw shit at me, maybe you should actually take the time to go look it up. That's the way that they avoid accountability, and they say, "Oh no, it's got something to do with you." Yeah, it has something to do with you, but only because it's what is being put into your body. It's the same as you have a baby growing inside you, okay, and the mother is addicted to drugs. What happens? That baby comes out addicted to, a lot of time, the baby will come out addicted to drugs, right? It'll be addicted to that substance that they're using. And why is that? It's because it's going through the bloodstream. If you weren't using, then your baby wouldn't come out addicted, would it? Lilith appears in Isaiah 34:14, a prophecy against Edom. Edom. The King James Version is translated as screech owl, because Lilith is going after the evil. Lilith is going after the demons. She's not the demon. She's the one going after the demon. Sophia is Mother Mary, which is the mother of Mary Magdalene. And then Mary Magdalene is the mother of Jesus. And then they have another child. Mary Magdalene has another child, but you believe it's by Jesus. Could you tell the difference between Jesus and his lookalike? Because he had a cousin. Cain and Lilith looked alike. Adam and Sophia looked alike. like, you know, you say the four corners of the world. You say the four horsemen. You say that they bring more, they what have you. No, they're not bringing it. They're shedding light on it. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the shall cry to his fellow, and the screech owl also shall rest there and find herself a place to of rest. Other translations, such as Revised Standard Version, render it as night hag. Night hag, the banshee, emphasizing a supernatural or demonic connotation. Now, you go to the series, Charmed, it tells you in these series, okay, Phoebe is with Cole, who Cole becomes the source. He was a demonic, he was half demon and half human. But then he became the source, and Phoebe married him. But then they divorced, and then something happened, and Phoebe became a banshee. And when she became that banshee, she went and she hunted Cole down. Because Cole was the evil. He caused her the pain. That's the part of like the feminine ride. That's the pain coming up. That's the Pandora's box. The banshee is much like the Pandora's box, and it's coming up through, and it's going to give it. It's going to make you feel the pain that you made it feel. So it's going to make that evil, that demon, that demonic energy, that shadow, or what have you, the one that caused it the pain, it's going to make it feel it. And it will make your eyes bleed and your ears bleed. But you demonize it as the beast. It is. It's the fury within. It's the pain coming to the surface. And the pain coming to the surface is going to make you see its pain. It's going to make you feel the pain. And that's what's happening in the world today. You're feeling Lilith's pain. But you still sit and you'll allow them to demonize you because you're in a man's world. Mind you, a man's world where, you know, they were humping little boys and marrying little girls and impregnating and saying that that was okay. Am I attacking your religion? You take it however you so desire. If that's what you call your religion, then I must say, the context describes desolation and wild creatures inhabiting a land under divine judgment rather than presenting Lilith as a personal character or demon. Lilith is depicted as Adam's first wife. Sophia was Adam's first wife, and they had Lilith and Cain. So then I guess Adam had sex with his first wife because, you say that Eve was created from Adam's rib. Adam was created from from Sophia's egg. Sophia was a hermaphrodite. It's the part where it's not. It's the parent who shows the jealousy and puts the jealousy between the children because they appear to be favoring one over the other. But with Cain and Abel, the father praised Abel for the sacrifice, for the kill. First form of cannibalism. You perceive your beginning of your human life. So they went after Mary Magdalene because Mary Magdalene was Mary's firstborn. But you'll hate me for that, or you'll tell me it's blasphemy. That's bullshit. Only because you were taught one way. I'd rather look at things for myself than have somebody tell me how I'm supposed to perceive something. Because they say, well, we went and we took many years of school. Well, I lived through different forms of experiences, and then I opened myself up and allowed Spirit to speak through. And let me tell you, it was painful to be able to get here because it was like the thought of, everybody's going to think I'm fucking delulu and crazy, which, I totally fucking understand that because, I even thought I was going batshit crazy because of, I was believing everything from, what they program you to believe. They told me when I had my exorcism in 1999, they told me, hey, say in the name of Jesus. What if that person's not around? People didn't die for your sins. They died because of the sins. The sins that you live under. What kept you hid, what kept it hid from you in order for you to be able to see the truth of it all. It's usually the same ones who want to construct and tell you stories about the biblical sense. And then you say, They're finding this evidence here and that evidence there. Who's finding it? Who's getting a hold of it? And who's the first narrative to give the say of what is told to the people? It's like you find artifacts, what happens? They get taken, right? Automatically scooped up for the most part. These ones that are doing the testing, they're the fucking intelligent ones. But then others will say, you know, if they give a theory that doesn't construct to what they wrote in their biblical ancient texts and things like that, then you know they will manipulate it. And then that goes into our children. They want something to sound more exciting, more elaborate. And, you know, hey, we need tourists, so we'll say that we got this. How many of you actually watched the series of The Simpsons when they were putting that new store up? And they took and they put the angel up to draw people's attention as a ploy, an advertising. I'm not saying that the stuff, the artifacts that they're finding is not real. But are the stories real, or are just people trying to make sense of it all and putting their own story to it in many ways? So, you know, it says in here, it didn't say anything of how Cain killed Abel. And so I don't know where to look in the Bible. How you are fallen from heaven, O shining star, son of the morning. You have been thrown down to the earth. You who have destroyed the nation of the world. You who destroyed the nations of the world. For you said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above God's stars. I proceed on the mountain of the gods, far away in the north. Okay. So above the stars, okay, so the sun is above the stars. So is it speaking about the earth because the sun is far above the heavens, heaven on earth? You have been thrown down to earth. You have destroyed the nations of the world. You said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above God's stars. I will proceed on the mountains of the gods far away in the north. I will climb to the highest heavens and be like the Most High. So the Most High is the Father, because Uranus is the sky. Okay? Gaia is the earth. Gaia created the heavens and the earth. Just say it was a man. Okay? But it was actually the one of two spiritual spirits. Instead, you will be brought down to the place of the dead, down to its lowest depths. Now, okay. They're really taking me there. Okay, so you look up in the sky and you see the sun. The sun rises, right? It comes up, rises. So it says up to the heavens and down to the dead. What did they say the core of the core of the earth is like? The core of the earth is like the sun, right? So I said, like, hmm, I guess they're taking me there now with regards to the round earth, flat earth theory, okay? And son of a bitch. Okay. It's too much. I don't know. I'm gonna have to change the title of this. Okay. that's what Spirit showed me, okay, because people are talking about the firmament and have you, and I've been looking, okay. You have the sun in the sky, right? You say it's one big ball of fire. And then you say inside the core of the earth, that's one big ball of fire, right? Now, if you look here, okay, you say the apple core. This looks a lot like an apple core, right? Okay, so you have the ship up here, and as above, so below. Okay, so this is the inner earth. Okay, so there's your big ball of fire. The big ball of fire is the energy source, right? The energy is a big ball of energy. Okay, so you say about a telescope. Okay, telescope, you could actually put it either way, right? Looking up, looking down, right? But if you put something in the middle, what does it do? It reflects from both sides. Okay. Now, Spirit had me look up with regards to, you say about, okay, the firmament. Okay. The firmament is, oh shit. Just above the moon, the distance of the moon. Shit. Every single day. Do you know what? I'm going to stop this video here and I'm going to get ready and I'm going to come back ready. Okay. And I'm going to talk because right now I have it labeled as parenting and I was talking about, okay, we'll get back to that. Okay. Because that's there somewhere. I'll remember to go to Isaiah. Deve ser no. Okay, so it's okay, the morning star. The passage describes a figure who sought to ascend above God, but was cast out to the earth. Cast out to the earth. So it was the spirit had me sitting with something because of an experience. Oh, yeah. It's like you live it in the moment. Okay, so when I was showing that, okay, think of this as much human body too. Okay, 7 chakras in the middle. Okay, so this is when it's referring to the sun. Oh, god dang. Come to a part 2. Spirit saying, just keep going, just keep going. Okay. Okay. Let's get this right. I'm gonna go to here. Okay. See, it says here, the name Lucifer is not used. The passage describes the king of tribe as a being of extraordinary beauty and wisdom, adored with precious stones, who became proud and was expelled from God's presence. Okay, now sought to ascend above God, but was cast down to the earth as a mediator for the fall of Satan or the kingdom of Babylon. So they switched the two suns. The real sun is within, and the false sun is what you see outside of you. That's why when you look at the firmament around the earth, the moon is inside the firmament, but the sun is outside of it. Alive. Okay. So he was in the ship and was cast out of the mother into the ether, which the ether represents the empty perceived spaces around. Okay, so for sure.